WCBI News at 10 starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Quentin Smith. Bridges to nowhere, games of chance, and a heated Senate race. They were all a part of Mississippi's political scene in 2018. Courtney Ann Jackson has a recap of the stories that dominated statewide news this year.
New funding for the state's roads and bridges is on its way thanks to this year's special session. But part of that money will be funneled from other 2018 developments. One of the funding sources is sports betting. A U.S. Supreme Court decision made it possible, and Mississippi had changed a law back in 2017 that opened the door to creating sports books. And the bets are already being placed.
I do believe being first, you develop that following. People like what they like, and the bettors are superstitious.
In 2019, you'll likely see the first lottery tickets purchased in the state. It, too, is the result of a special session bill.
Millions of dollars have been leaving this state every year to never come back to go buy a ticket in another state. Now we can utilize it right here in our great state.
A portion of the money will go to the roads and bridges for the first 10 years. That took some priority after the governor was forced to issue a state of emergency and order dozens of bridges around the state to close in April. And several months' worth of political talk centered around the U.S. Senate special election to fill the remainder of Thad Cochran's term. It was ultimately Cindy Hyde-Smith and Mike Espy who made the runoff and faced off in a debate where Hyde-Smith addressed her controversial public hanging comment.
Anyone that was offended by my comments, I certainly apologize. There was no ill will, no intent whatsoever.
Well, know what's in your heart, but we all know what came out of your mouth.
Hyde-Smith won and has been sworn in as the first woman elected to represent the state in Washington.
Retiring Mississippi Supreme Court Chief Justice Bill Waller Jr. says he's considering running for governor, but he's leaning against throwing his hat in the ring. The longtime judge says it's time for someone else to take on his role. Waller is set to step down on January 31st. On your screen is video from a visit he made to Mississippi State. Now, Waller believes his successes were pay raises for judges, an expansion of drug courts, and a growing electronic record system. However, one of his biggest regrets is not getting a statewide system of county courts. Well, it is now time to turn our attention over to weather. Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson is standing by with a first look at our forecast. Keith?
Quentin, we do have some showers developing around the region right now. So a mild night, mid to upper 50s, much warmer tonight versus what we had yesterday. But we have wind now 10 to 15 with some higher gusts already beginning to perk on up as some of these showers, some gusty showers moving our way. The big system out to the west, it's still there. Showers and storms are blossoming. All of this is headed our way. So we'll start out in the 50s on Thursday, back into the 60s, windy all day long, those southeasterly winds, and some heavier rain and storms from late morning into the afternoon. Your full forecast is coming up.
Thanks so much, Keith. A third person is arrested in connection with a shooting that sent a Macon man to the hospital over the weekend. Police Chief Divine Beck says David Jaquan Hampton of Meridian is behind bars tonight for his alleged involvement. Hampton is being charged with attempted murder and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. He's accused of shooting Roman Maddox in the chest this past Friday. That shooting happened at the intersection on North and MLK Streets. Two other suspects are also in custody for their alleged involvement. On your screen is Jamisha Irvin and Terrence Pfeiffer. Both are being charged with accessory after the fact. Hampton is being held in the Lauderdale County Jail and is set to make his initial court appearance on tomorrow. Bond is set at $10,000 for a Starkville woman accused of a Christmas Eve stabbing. Rachel Criddle is charged with domestic violence aggravated assault after police say she stabbed someone during an argument at a home on Sycamore Street. The victim was airlifted to a hospital for treatment. At this time, no condition is available for his update. A Christmas Eve argument leaves a woman dead and a Lowndes County man now charged with manslaughter. 32-year-old Deanna Clark was found lying on the ground near a home on Eileen Drive just before midnight on Monday. Investigators say deputies were originally called about a possible shooting. However, there were no shots fired. Instead, witnesses found Clark pinned between a tree and a car. She died early Christmas morning at a Jackson hospital. Detectives say evidence tells them Clark's death was surely not an accident.
The car and the circumstances behind the situation of how she came into that position with the car and the tree is, yeah, it was pretty apparent. It does seem that this situation arose out of a domestic situation between the two parties.
On your screen is 29-year-old Jonathan Bartley. He was allegedly driving the vehicle at the time of the crash. He left the scene but later turned himself in on Christmas morning. Bartley currently remains behind bars. Well, for some, the holiday season is the perfect time to be with family members and friends. But for others, it means added stress, and that can sometimes cause people to lash out at those closest to them. Our Blair Schaefer speaks with professionals who deal with the aftermath of these situations to find out the reasons why and where victims can go to get help.
Lowndes County investigator Greg Wright says violence can spring from parents who struggle to afford specific needs.
Can't get certain things for the kids or couldn't get certain things for the wife, and then sometimes when you introduce things like alcohol or drugs, narcotics, if you want to say that, when you introduce that into the mix, then yes, you can have a volatile situation real quick.
He says the pressure between family members to provide for one another can create stress and spark reactions that may lead down the wrong path.
Sometimes in the course of that stressful situation, they may lash out at a loved one, and which causes the problem, and then we're called.
But you don't have to wait for the assault to happen before reaching out for help. Domestic violence coordinator Dendria Swanigan says people can pick up on signs that show a person is in trouble.
A person can get isolated from friends and family. They lose weight, they have health issues, they just stray away from their normal life.
Swanigan says most victims are afraid of being judged, so they isolate themselves from outsiders and keep quiet.
That's why a lot of people don't tell their business or anything.
She says many who seek help think of their situation as their fault, but in most cases, they're wrong.
A lot of people blame themselves for, being in the situation. The most critical piece of advice, it's not your fault.
Circumstances Swanigan has seen have revolved around the feeling of having nowhere else to go. But she told me that she's been a part of many success stories and has helped many find their new life.
I have seen the victim leave the abuser, and they have a successful life now without the abuser. So it can be done.
That was our Blair Schaefer reporting there. Now, if you find yourself in a violent situation, you can call the nationwide domestic violence hotline. That number is 1-800-799-7233.
10:09 on our Wednesday evening. We do have our Alpha Insurance Camera Network right here. More or less a clear view across our region, although we do have some lighter showers coming on in right now. Heavier rain tomorrow morning into the afternoon, highs in the 60s and windy. More after the break.
Wcbi First Alert AccuWeather Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
This week is just flying on by. Tomorrow, already Thursday, we do have some rain and storms in the forecast as we've been talking about. 60s, windy, southeasterly winds perhaps gusting over 30, even tonight too, with rain and storms on the way. All right, here's how it looked today with our Alpha Insurance time lapse from downtown Columbus. A mix of sun and clouds. Not too bad of a day. We topped out in the 60s. A similar temperature pattern for tomorrow with rain and more wind. Notice the showers here already coming on in from the southwest. Some lighter activity to some steadier rain. Some wind gusts mixed in with that as well. The bigger storms now from Oklahoma into Texas, and that is producing some severe weather, and it is moving our way. So Futurecast is doing a pretty good job picking up on that. Let's zoom on in and talk about tomorrow morning around sunrise for the morning commute. We are looking at a chance for some showers, yes, but the heaviest rain likely back off to the west. By midday, a lot of that will start to advance on into our region, especially the western half of our coverage area, and then by the afternoon into the east and southeast. Gusty wind with those storms and some torrential downpours will be the main threats here. And some of that rain will actually carry over into tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, and Friday morning before it moves off to the east by sometime Friday afternoon. So wind and flooding, the main threats here. The tornado threat remains relatively low. We'll be watching out for that, though. But wind, the primary threat, and perhaps some spots getting over 3 inches of rain with this setup. The Storm Prediction Center highlighting the central and southern part of Mississippi in that yellow Category 2 of 5 of the severe weather threat. For us, just a Category 1 threat here. It still looks like the best chance for some of those stronger updrafts, the rotating storms, to be along and south of I-20, but sometimes that can shift farther north. Alex will have the latest starting at 4:30 on sunrise tomorrow morning. We will all have the wind that starts tonight, is starting right now, and it will carry over for tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, look at this for the commute. Sustained wind from the southeast at about 10 to 25 with some higher gusts. And there's a flash flood watch for areas southeast of the Trays for this event, where we are still advertising the highest amounts, 2 to 3, maybe more, as we go throughout the next day and a half. All right, here's your AccuWeather 7-day forecast. Windy tomorrow, mid-60s. The rain is out of here by Friday afternoon, still in the 60s. Rain shower activity continues for the weekend into early next week. Temperatures cool down into the 50s. It could be a wet start to 2019. There's your forecast. More of the show after the break.
Welcome back. If you spend any time on the roads, chances are you've seen a distracted driver. AAA says 16% of fatal crashes are actually caused by distracted driving. Tonight, we learn more in our Health Talk with Baptist.
Hi, I'm Lee Richardson, a physician in the emergency room at Baptist Memorial Hospital, Golden Triangle. Let's discuss distracted driving. Anything that takes your attention away from driving can be a distraction. Sending a text message, talking on a cell phone, using a navigation system, even eating while driving are examples of distracted driving that can endanger you and others on the road. Distracted driving is the leading cause of car crashes in the United States. According to the National Safety Council, 1.6 million, or 1 out of every 4 accidents, are caused by texting while driving in the United States, and 10% of all fatal crashes involve texting. Each day in the United States, approximately 9 people are killed and more than 1,000 injured in crashes that are reported to involve a distracted driver. There are 3 main types of distracted driving: visual, which is where you take your eyes off the road; manual, when you take your hands off the wheel; cognitive, when you take your mind off driving. 39 states in the U.S. have laws that ban sending text messages while driving. 4.6 seconds pass when a driver's eyes leave the road to text. At 55 miles per hour, it's like driving the length of a football field with your eyes closed. Avoid distracted driving by putting your phone in Do Not Disturb mode. Don't reach for items while driving. Stay focused on the road. Join us next time for Health Talk with Baptist, when we will discuss how using restraints can save your life.
Mail your topic suggestions to healthtalk@wcbi.com. Health Talk has been brought to you by Baptist Memorial Hospital, Golden Triangle.
State troopers wrote more than 6,500 tickets, and 2 people died during the Christmas holiday travel period. The Mississippi Highway Patrol says 124 people were also arrested for DUI. Troop F, based in New Albany, had the most DUIs with 24. MHP also gave tickets for seatbelt and child restraint violations. Highway patrolmen started the travel period on Friday, and it wrapped up on yesterday. The first fatal crash happened Friday in Tate County. A second deadly crash happened on Sunday on Highway 9 in Calhoun County. 49-year-old Thomas Horton of Vardaman died at the scene of the head-on collision. Those accidents remain under investigation. The Humphrey Coliseum plays host to Travis Outlaw's slam dunk at the Hump this afternoon. Highlights from today's game coming up next in sports.
Your WCBI Sports with Courtney Robb.
Just one more non-conference game for the Ole Miss women on Friday against North Florida. While the team has been struggling throughout this rebuild season, the good news is that the Rebels host a team that's shown to be uncomfortable on the road. For the most part, home court advantage has been a bright spot for Ole Miss. The challenge for the Rebels in this game is what was exploited in their last game against Troy. Plain and simple, the team needs to find ways to get rebounds. Currently, Ole Miss is 4-2 in games that they out-rebound their opponents, averaging around 38 rebounds per game. Head coach Yolette McPhee-McQuinn said after the loss against Troy that she felt it had to do with lack of rebounds, and that rebounding has to do with want and will and toughness. Especially important before entering into SEC play with Mississippi State on the horizon at the end of January. Tip against North Florida is early Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. and can be watched on SEC Network Plus. Some more games coming up this weekend. The holiday season's over. We're getting college basketball back into our lives this weekend. Ole Miss playing on Friday against North Florida. That game's going to be at 1 p.m. on SEC Networks Plus. The Ole Miss men, they're going to be on Saturday. Also a Florida school matchup. Florida Gulf Coast University is going to be playing Ole Miss in Oxford. That game's going to be at Saturday on 1 p.m. You can also watch that on SEC Network Plus if you're looking to watch that. Currently rocking a 5-game win streak too, so should be a good game. The Mississippi State men also having an early day on Saturday. Talk about early, that game's going to be at 11 a.m. They're hosting BYU, and they're looking to continue that, keep that win streak that they've got going alive. On the other hand, the women on Sunday looking to start rebuilding their win streak after that loss to Oregon last week. They're going to be playing Louisiana at 2 p.m. on Sunday. All these games are home games in either Starkville or Oxford, and this weekend marks the end of non-conference play with SEC play ramping up just next week. The annual Travis Outlaw Slam Dunk at the Hump today, tipping off first Starkville and the Louisville girls. Third quarter, Lamaya Pfeiffer gets the ball down court. She scores for 2 and cuts the lead to just 13. A little bit later off the inbounds pass, Itasha Patty gets it to go, scores with the left hand, and a little bit more from Louisville from here. Patty would miss a corner 3, but Pfeiffer there for the rebound and the basket, lays it in, but the Louisville girls unable to hang on. They fall to Olive Branch 59-44, the final in game 1. The Starkville boys facing Tupelo following the game before early on, right off from opening tip. Tupelo's Josh Mitchell gets it, scores inside for 2, and the Golden Wave have an early lead, 2-0. Starkville responded back. Jamarvius Phillips finds Terry Tate at the top of the key, drains the 3, and Tupelo would work its way back. Keandre Hampton gets a steal, going to go all the way to the other end of the court, finds Mitchell, and he scores for 2. But back would come the Yellow Jackets, resilient as ever. Forte Predator drains a 3 from way behind the arc. And a little bit more action from Starkville from there. Zeke Cook gets the ball inside, dishes to Tank Jones on the nice pass for the score. The Yellow Jackets outshoot the Golden Wave in this one. Starkville gets the win over Tupelo, a final of 69-45. Now it's time for the two-time defending 6A champ Starkville girls facing Wcbi early on. For Starkville, Amaya forward drive. She goes inside and gets the floater to go. The Jackets lead 2-0. A little bit later, forward finding Jalissa Outlaw at the wing. She drains the 3 there. That's good. And Wcbi trying to answer on back. Janessa Cotton driving, missing the jumper, but Jaden Fortner is there for the rebound and put back. And a little bit more from Starkville. Amaria Strong finding Outlaw at the top of the key. She drains the 3. And Starkville would go on to get a big win in a big way, the final of 74-16. Plenty of more games coming up tomorrow as well that we'll have coming up also tomorrow. If you tune into WCBI, we'll have those highlights for you. That's it for sports. Your last look coming up next.
We do have some light rain developing around here as expected. Those gusty winds are developing too. Bigger storms out to the west in Texas. That line is marching our way, and by late morning tomorrow into the afternoon, it will move through here. So still some gusty wind potential, a few strong storms, and some heavy rain. Alex will have the very latest starting at 4:30 right here on Sunrise. And those rain chances continue for the end of 2018.
So once the storm move out of the way, I was looking at a nice weekend coming up?
Still some rain chances.
Okay, I'll take it. Have a good night, everyone.